We're going to start. It's about 7 lines from the bottom. On Chaf Tesamad Aleph, which is 29a. Words are Amar Rab Shmuel Bar Nachman, Amar Rab Yonason. Yeah? Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day, sometimes twice. But in this chesed of learning, we should have the basic English immediately. Learning the Nishmas of Golda Basbar Yaman and Salas of Mitzian and Shlema for Rabbi Sarah. Gets all the parents and for Jimmy, for Chaim Ben Sarah. Okay, the Gemara says like this. Actually, what we're talking about is someone admitting in front of witnesses and using that admittance as a using that admitting in court. So we said that would only work if the person says "Atamedai," that you should be my witnesses. If he just said something, he can always say, "Oh well, I was kidding." Well, we said that we shouldn't use any excuses for a masis, for someone that pushes other people to worship idols. Now, Amar Rab Shmuel Bar Nachman Amar Rab Yonason Minayin Shein Tainol HaMasis. Where do you know that if the masis himself doesn't give the excuse, the person that pushes other people to worship idols, he doesn't say the excuse? How do we know that we don't step in and do the excuse and say the excuse for him, like the judges? Now the judges are judging the case. They say, "Well, he didn't say that excuse, so we're not gonna suggest it." So where do we know that from? We learn it from that first snake that convinced Adam and Chava and Adam to eat from the Eitz Hadas. Rab Shmuel says Rab Shmuel is not so common in Shas, but in Makkos you have Rab Shmuel. Taryag mitzvahs. This comes from Rab Shmuel. Rab Shmuel, Harbi Tainasei Leila Nachash Litan. The Nachash could have claimed a lot of claims, Leitan, but he didn't claim them. Leitan LeHakadosh Baruch Hu. So why didn't Hashem give the claims for him? Right? Hashem could have suggested because he didn't suggest them himself. So now we learn that if the masis, he's considered a masis, he convinced other people to not worship idols, but thank you, to eat from the Eitz Hadas. So then we don't put the claim in for him. What type of excuse could the serpent, the Nachash, have said that would have got him off the hook? Where it says he could have said Divrei Rav, Divrei Talmud, Divrei Mishayman. Divrei Rav Shayman. Why did Chava and Adam listen to me? They should have listened to Hashem.
The opposite of the rock.
Opposite of the rock. When he hit the rock?
He hit the rock because if he spoke to the rock, it would have been like.
Oh, it would have been an example. Yeah. Oh, very nice. Huh. Okay. So it's interesting, Gemara, because the Gemara said, Harbi Tainasei Leila Nachash Litan.
He gave one.
They only gave one. And also, different have a different time, different Mishayman. Oh, Jeff, we're on 29a, but about 3 lines from the bottom. 29a. Yeah, we learned last night.
Thanks.
Different time, different Mishayman is not explaining the scenario. See, an excuse would be,
it's not my fault.
I lied. I didn't really mean that. But he's not explaining the scenario. This is something that the judges have to figure out. What should the person have done? Very interesting. Okay. Amar Chizki, Minayin Shekol HaMaaseh Kareya. You'll see how this comes into this discussion. How do you know that anyone that adds is really subtracting? Listen to this. It says, Amar Elikim le'seichlim men of le'sigubay. Because Chava said that you shouldn't. Hashem said, "Don't eat from the tree and don't touch it." Oh, she added in, "Don't touch it." So then that's really subtracting. Any adding is in Chulin we had in Elu Trefus we had that if you have an extra body part that's kala yeser kanatul dami, it's as if it's been removed. This is which creates problems. But here we're saying any additional thing that doesn't belong there, it's really subtracting. You don't want to add anything. When you add things. Yeah. I heard Rabbi Ginsburg speaking about that it was really Adam's fault because Adam didn't have the patience to explain to Chava what all the halachas were. So he said, just don't touch it. And then, it's Adam's impatience that gave her that. And then that's how it all came about.
She didn't just say don't touch it.
Okay, but she added. Because Adam didn't have the patience to. I don't want to make it that.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, it is. You just say yes. Even if you're tired and stuff, just say yes. I learned my mistake.
Your wife is right.
Yep.
She's wrong. She's still.
I learned.
Yeah,
I'm learning.
healthy
Still.
man.
So I read that this is why you have to be so careful about saying what's a deraisa and what's a derabanan.
Right.
Because Adam made a derabanan sound like it was a deraisa.
Very nice.
True.
Is the way they take the not to be rich about not so important.
Maybe.
Are we?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you need that if you need this to prove it. We're holding now on the very bottom of 29A. Ramashashi has another source for the same point. Not to add. If you add, you're really subtracting. It says Amasayim v'chetz yarkis, talking about the Aron. The Aron was 2.5 amas, right? So how do you say 2? There's a I forget the grammar term for this, but instead there's a plural, of course, a singular and a plural, and then there's a double, like raglayim, it's 2. Amasayim, it's 2, right? It's not just a plural.
It's not just a day I'm up.
Anyway, if that aleph wouldn't have been there, then we would have read it as Masayim. Now there should have been an aleph after the mem, but sometimes it drops. The aleph. Anyway, it would have said Masayim. That would have been 200.5 amas, and instead we added there's an aleph there, what makes it only 2 amas. You see that extra aleph subtracts. You added an aleph, it subtracts. Rav Ashi Amar Ashtei Yisrei is very interesting in the Torah Hebrew. If you say Shtei Yisrei is 12. Ashtei Yisrei is 11. That extra ayin subtracts 1. So subtract. You see, you add. Anyone that adds, it really subtracts. Amar Abaya says, when did we say that the person gets away with his admitting in front of witnesses, and then afterwards he comes to court and or not to court, he says, pay me. The person says, what? I was just kidding. That's if he says, I was just kidding. But if he says, I was never, I never admitted to this, then huchsa kafran. Then his status changes to be someone that we don't trust anymore. Because we have witnesses that he did say it. If he says, I said it, but I was kidding, then fine. But if he says, I never said it, and now he's a liar. And then his status changes, he won't be able to take an oath, which sometimes means that he's going to have to pay. Because people that can't swear sometimes have to pay. It depends, like one witness testifies against him, well, can't trust you, so you have to pay. Right? Amar Rav Papa Breder Rav Acha Bar Idi Bar Ada. Rav Papa, the son of Rav Acha Bar Ada, says the following. Said 1 second. Not necessarily does it become a huchsa kafir. Could be. Who said the statement? This was Abaya. So in the name of Rava, they said differently. It says Kol mili dichdi lei dichrienshi. No, he's not a huchzakaf. And the fact that he's denying that he ever said that was because people don't remember insignificant conversations. They remember insignificant conversations, but not insignificant. So the reason why now he's saying, what? I never said that. That's because that wasn't a serious conversation. This is a type of bed that has a canopy over it. And he puts these two Eidim inside this bed. And he tells to his friend, Amalei Manali Biatcha, he tells to his friend over there, you owe me money. Amalei, he said, you're right. Amar, Iri v'shchivi lehavi alach sadi. Those that are awake and those that are asleep could be witnesses. Amalei Loi, he says, no, I don't want that. Now, he thought that he would admit in front of the witnesses that are there, but maybe the person would agree to it, hoping that everyone was asleep in that bedroom. So he said, those that are awake and those that are asleep will be witnesses. And the person would think, well, everyone's asleep, so there's no problem here. But he said, no. Rav Kana says there's no shaila over here because he said that he's not accepting that.
Doesn't it become hearsay?
Yeah. That's why until it's what he says, you are my witnesses, then it's considered hearsay. Person that hid witnesses in a grave that was right next to it.
Oh, it's interesting. It says,
That's the first one. Go to the next one. Of Amalei, and he says to his friend, Manali biadcha. Or maybe Bekivra. Lachavri Amalei. How does it put it? Is Lachavri Amalei or Bekivra Lachavri? Where do you put the comma over there? Edim. Lachavri Bekilsa. Before it had it before. Edim Lachavri. Oh, it must be like this. It's really, he's hiding witnesses for his friend in a grave. That's what it means. He says, Manali biadcha. There's money, you owe me money. Amalei, he says, yes. Those that are the living and the dead should be witnesses. Now, of course, you're in the cemetery. Of course, everyone's dead. He doesn't know that there's two witnesses there that are hiding the grave. Yeah. So Amalei, and the person responded, no.
Oh, so
I'm Reb Shimon,
gravesite,
so that they should hear. You have to put the lachabri back on. Yeah. The Achman, he hid witnesses. He says, no, I'm not agreeing to that. I'm Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says, this is Reb Shimon ben Lakish. According to the Gemara on the side, according to this Mesiras Shas, actually it's in brackets, it's Rabbi Shaya Pick. Reb Shimon says, he said, we can't say that these are witnesses because he said no, he's not agreeing to that. Amar Ravina v'temer of Papa. Well, Ravina, some say it was Rav Papa that said this. Shmami namiha. From this we can understand, we can imply Hadam Rav Yehuda Marav. This that Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, which we learned on the page before. You have to say, you are my witnesses. You don't say that, then this whole thing doesn't work. You can't get an admittance to be held in court. But it doesn't matter if the borrower, which means the defendant, says, you are my witnesses, or if the plaintiff says, you are my witnesses, and the loiva is quiet. Both of those work. even if the borrower doesn't say you are my witnesses, it still works. Why? Because from this we see that the borrower has to say, no, I disagree. But if it would be quiet, then it would work. So it's a proof that it doesn't matter who says it, until the borrower says, no, I'm not agreeing to that, then it's going to be considered acceptable. There was a person that they called him. He's a bundle of documents. It means he owes a lot of people money. Amar man masik bi. He says, who do I owe money to? I only owe money to one person, or so and so. Plenty. It means these two people. Also, Tavu Ladina, they say, oh, very good. Okay. He admitted. They take him to court. The person, it's possible that he doesn't want to look rich. So he says, I owe people money. And he was just making himself so the Mishalachim don't bother him. Yeah. This is a very interesting expression. There was a person that they called him a mouse or a weasel or something that lays on coins. Now that's an expression that means that he has a lot of money, but he doesn't use it all. He's a miser. So he's a mouse that lays on coins. When he was passing away, Amar, Planya Maskabi Zuzi. So and so and so and so, they lent me money. Basad the Shachiv, after he passed away, they heard about it and they went to ask the inheritors, where's the money? Your father admitted that he owes us.
No, it's because these creatures, they order like their food, like for lifetimes. Like every generation of money, they hoard it. And they tear everything up. They don't leave anything there.
That's what they get about the dragon.
You know how the squirrels, they hide for the winter. They hide all their things. So they have these piles all over the place of stuff. So here it's an example of this mouse has this pile of money. Yeah, just with a long tail, but a furry tail.
I've heard most squirrels forget when.
Yeah. That's Achbar the Shachiv acorns. Chestnuts. Achbar the Shachiv chestnut. Okay, so this person said he was a miser, but he said on his deathbed, he said that I owe so and so money, so and so and so and so money. They come to Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi. Amalahu. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi says to them, Ki amrina adamasa yishlei lashbias atzma. A person maybe doesn't want to make himself look rich. Hani mili mechayim. That's only while he's alive. But after he passes away, lie. Obviously, he said this because it's true. Paru palga. They ended up paying half. They didn't pay the whole thing.
Weddings.
For weddings, they say that they have a lot. Now here, well, he would admitted that he owes money. We're saying, well, do we say that was because it's true, or is because he would just want people to think something? So he said, well, because he was on his deathbed, it was probably true. So they went and they paid half. But that wasn't all the money. They brought him to court for the rest. Also, they come to Reb Chia. Amalahu. Reb Chia says, Reb Chia is in the same generation as Reb Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi, I guess so. Reb Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi is a friend of Rebbe. So Reb Chia is a student of Rebbe. So they come to Reb Chia. He says to them, it's not because after his death he doesn't want to look rich. He doesn't want his children to look rich. He's trying to protect them from people borrowing her. Remember that story with the guy? He told his Rebbe, people are bothering me. Yeah. So he said, I don't get what the problem is. If they're wealthy, so ask them for a loan, and they'll go away. And he says, and if they're not wealthy, so give them a loan.
Then you'll never
see them again. So okay. So a person doesn't want to make his children look wealthy either. So that's why he said that he owes money. Amrlay. So he said, oh, 1 second. So if he really, this is not considered a real good admitting, so Nazel v'Nahader, we should go and give back the money that we took. Amalahu kvar hayrazakin. No, that Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi already paskined. Kvar hayrazakin. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yosi already paskined. It's interesting that he's called a zakin. He's a zakin for Reb Chia. Reb Chia is older than Reb Chia. Okay, now So what they got, and then the new judge changed the law. But what they took from the first judge's ruling, that's already taken. They don't return that. Let's say a person admitted that he owes money, and they said, "Okay, lift this up, make a kinyan on that." So, and he made the kinyan. So, kaisvin, they're actually allowed to write it in a document. Now, originally, he owed money without a document. It was called a milveh al peh. Halachas are different if there's a document or if there's no document. If there's a document, creates a lien on property. There's a lot of differences. Now they made a kinyan. They said, made a kinyan, we change the status of the loan and we can put it in a document. The imlav, but if you didn't make the kinyan, then in case when you can't put it in a document. Notice he agreed that he owes, but that doesn't mean that we can write it. That's another level.
In that case, do they put the date on the document like the date in the kinyan?
I think the date of the kinyan. It also wouldn't make sense that people that bought property are now going to have a lien on it. In front of three people, but they didn't make a kinyan. The person admitted in front of three, which sounds like he admitted in front of a bezdin, but they didn't make a kinyan. Well, it's a machlekes Ravami and Ravasi. Ravami Amar Kaisvin. Ravami says you can write the document, and the reason for this is because hefker bezdin hefker. The bezdin is allowed to change the status of this person's money and say that now this person there's a lien on his property. Ravasi Amar Ravasi says ain't kaisvin. No, they didn't make a kinyan. They can't make that. They can't do that. Amar Ravad Barav. I'm sorry, I skipped that. There was a story, and Rav was concerned about what Ravasi said, and he did not write the document, even though someone admitted in front of three people. Amar Ravada Barava says, Ha'udaisa, this document that says that so and so admitted that he owes money. Zimnin kasvinan v'zimnin le kasvinan. Sometimes you write it, and sometimes you don't write it. Knifi b'yasvi, if he was the one that gathered if these people were gathered before he shows up, they were sitting over there and they were just schmoozing. Let's hope about Torah. So, and then he shows up and he says, "I admit that I owe someone money." So, like kasvinan, so you don't write it. Kanfino, if he gathered the people together, he wanted three people, then kasvinan, then we write the document because he would clearly wanted a bestin. He wanted, and that means that he wanted to admit, he wanted to change the status of the loan. Rabbi Amrafilu Kanfinuiyu. Rabbi says, no, even if he was the one that did the gathering of the three people, like kasvinan adamalu havilai dayani, until he tells them, you be the judges. Mar Baravashi Amar Mar Baravashi says, Afilu Amar havilai dan like kasvinan. Even if he says, you be the judges, they don't write it until they establish their location and they send a summons to him. Then it's considered a court. Otherwise, it's just a fake. If he admits that he owes someone, or maybe some items were deposited by him and they're not really his, he admits that they belong to someone else, but he makes a kinyan, then very good. You can write a document that these items belong to him, that he owes this person these items. Imlav, he didn't make a kinyan, then in case when you can't write that. B'makarkai. Now, the difference why land is different is because land is not something that you have to collect. Land, if once you admit that this property doesn't belong to you, it belongs to someone else, then that's immediately like given to him, even if the person doesn't do anything. Once there's a document that it's his, he doesn't have to be on it. When it comes to personality, right? So then you have to actually transfer it. Oh, you have something that's mine, right? Otherwise, you just have to get the guy off it. But it doesn't change possession when you transfer it back.
Hello, asked before the agent that they're going to sign, the signing that date.
So,
but in the what do you call it? The verbiage of the document, does it say when that person took original ownership? Is there another date?
I'm not sure.
Because he might be unloading the property because the liens on that property from years ago, and he wants to say, I don't own this property. guess what? You own the property, and then all of a sudden, the guy,
Right.
these guys come, they take the property.
Right.
Yeah.
But it can't get worse than not owning it in the first place, right? Not like the taxes. Now the taxes on it.
Only when that property has more debt than it's worth. You
Right.
don't
That's what
own
I'm
it.
saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so if when it comes to property, so then the first opinion here is by property, but he didn't make a kinyan. So then, what's going to be the halacha? A meimer says kaisvin that you do write it. You see, it's when you're changing the status of a loan by writing the document and not writing the document, you have to be more strict about that because you're changing something here. It's putting a lien. But over here, when you're just admitting, so it doesn't matter the document, document, and no document. When you're admitting, you're just making it easier on him, but you're not changing the status of ownership of anything when you write the document. So when he's this is by realty. So a meimer says no, you don't write the document. Marzuch says no, you do write the document. The halacha is that we write the document. The person admits that the property is not his. Ravina kloi ledam harya. Ravina came to this place. Amalei Rav Dimi bar Rav Huna midmad harya. Ravina. So Rav Dimi, the son of Rav Huna of that place. No clue, but I figured in the Koran there's probably a map somewhere. Do they say where it is? He says, I asked like this, Metalpli visnu beinayo. We were talking before about a loan. Where a loan, it changes the status when you have a document. But let's say it's personality, items, but they're standing right there. What's going to be the din if a person admits that it's not his? That is exactly like property. Because you're not changing the status of something when you write that document. You see the item right here, it's either his or it's not his. He admitted that it's not his. Our question over here isn't the right here. It's not about believing. We had a discussion about believing because on the last page he said, well, I was just kidding. I didn't really mean that. But now our question is there this, do we create a lien on his property because he just admitted? So Ravashi says no. Given the mechasri gavaina, because you didn't take it into your possession, then that ultimately could lead to a lien on property, because now the person's going to owe, and so then we don't write the document. Who, unless they make a kinyan. Who idaisid lekasaba amalana ksuva chasuma v'havalei. There was a document that people signed on, and it's in the document it said that someone admitted that he owes money, but they didn't say that the person had told us to write the document. Abaye and Rava both say, well, don't worry about it, because Reish Lakish already told us. Let's say there's a person that's selling property, his father's property. Now that we learned at a rule that if an orphan is selling his father's property, he can only do that once he's 20 years old. But if he's not 20 years old, he can't do that. So I have a document that the person sold property, and it says, and there's two witnesses on it. Reish Lakish says that we don't have to be concerned that maybe those people weren't old enough, because if there's witnesses on it, they never would have signed if the scenario didn't warrant that this should be acceptable. Well, it could be the same thing here. In this document of admitting, it doesn't say that the person had said to write the document. He didn't agree. It doesn't say that he agreed. But now I have witnesses that signed on it. So obviously they checked out and they know that it was acceptable to write the document.
Who is responsible? In case of the witness documents, would be responsible for making sure that
The witnesses.
the witnesses are who they say they are. Like, for example, today, the notary is the one that asks everyone for their ID and makes sure that everything is right. In that sense,
Here it would be the lender wants to make sure everyone's right. Yeah. Maskefler of Papa, Tamer Rabbi Shua ben Rabbi Huna Braid Rabbi Shua. there's a question on this. Rapapi asks, and some say it was Puna Breder of Yeshua. Mi ikamidi danan leyadinan safri debei dina yadi. We didn't know this halachas. How do we know that that when to sign, when not to sign? Do the witnesses or do the scribes know these halachas better than us? And that's why we're trusting that they would only have signed if the person had said this and that. Well, the Gemara says, Shalina l'sifri d'Abaya. They asked the scribes in Abaya's court, Biadi, and they knew that the person needs to tell them there needs to be their instructions to sign it. L'sifri d'Rava Biadi, yeah, they knew it. So that has to be the case where if you see that it was signed, that it would be, and those people that are in the business know how to do this. There was a document that didn't say Zichrein Eidos. This is a record of testimony. It didn't say that. It said this is a record of court of
A fancy way of saying.
this is a record of court rulings, court decisions. However, but it didn't say the first part of the document, which always says, with 3 people we sat, and they needed, because only 2 people signed on it. We sat with 3 people, but one of them left. One of them isn't here, so to be able to sign. If you would have a court that had 3 people on the court, but one of them left, then you would have to write Ma'asav plus Avina. We took the judgment with 3 people, and the reason why the document's only being signed by 2 is because one of the person left,
Here they have it as part.
passed away.
Would be nice.
Okay, so now we have 2 witnesses on this document, and it looks like it's a court document, but it's missing that phrase. We just said Rish Lakish. Like I said, that witnesses would never sign unless everything is acceptable. No, maybe this is a bezdin that's making a mistake. Maybe they think that they could be judges with just 2 people. They think that bezdin with 2 people is acceptable. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says ikasav beidina, but if it says a beidina, a court, sulei tzara, then everyone knows that a court is 3 people. They just thought that it only requires 2 people to do this type of thing. But if you use the word court, beidina, then everyone knows that there's 3 people. The Gemara says, how do you know? Dilma bezdin chatzif. The Amar Shmuel said, if 2 people judge a case, it's considered a good judgment, except that it's called the bezdin chatzif. What was the word for chatzif? Insolent. Yeah, disregarding others. That means they don't care what the people think about, because now it's going to be obvious that they both agree that this person's guilty. So the Gemara says, so how do we know that this is considered a court? According to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, how do we know that this is considered, that it's really 3 people? It says the Kasab Beidina de Rabbana Ashi. It said the Bezdin of Rav Ashi. How do you know the Bezdin of Rav Ashi doesn't hold that you can use the 2 people? Maybe the Bezdin of Rav Ashi holds like Shmuel. It says the Ksiv by V'amarna lana Rabbana Ashi, or V'amar lana Rabbana Ashi. Rav Ashi said to us to write this. Okay, so we figured out a way where it's going to be fine, even with 2 witnesses, 2 people signing it, that it's going to be considered a court document. Tana Rabbanan, we're starting in Brisa. Amalam Echad. Person says to these inheritors, okay, he said, I saw your father, I was there, I remember your father.
Before he passed away.
Before he passed away, he was hiding money in this box and that box, and that bank account. And he said, the money belongs to so-and-so. He said, they're only getting this information together with that the money has a certain, it's not really theirs. So Meiser Sheni, and the money is Meiser Sheni. So now, do we trust this person? He has information. The bias, if it's in the house, Le'omer Klum, we don't trust him. because he didn't have access to that money. And he's just saying he's not two witnesses, he's just one person. We don't trust him. But if the money, he's hid the money in the field, if he really thought, or if he really wanted something to happen and we don't trust him, he would have taken the money. He knows where it is. He's the only one that knows where the treasure is hidden. So now we will trust him when he says
So is
that.
that amigo?
So it's like amigo, yeah. Klol shel davar, the rule is kol shebiyad litlan, anything that he could have taken on his own, var of kayamin, then we're going to trust him. If he couldn't have taken it, then we don't trust him. He's just saying about someone else's money, and that we don't trust. Ratio savim. Let's say
Right,
they saw their father.
That's like saying, the guy could have been a crook,
Mhm.
and because he didn't steal, we trust him. You're not supposed to be a crook to begin with. I mean, you don't
Found money
get
in-
credit for not being something you're not supposed to be.
Nothing to
this-
take,
in this
that's why I
world.
didn't take.
That's like saying to your kids,
You were saying.
you're good kids. You know why? Because you don't do all those bad things that you're not supposed to. No, they're good kids. They're not supposed to be doing those bad things.
You should know. Sumra is a big thing.
So
mean,
the-
Can you ask
Well,
Dr. Stein not to raise his voice? It's disturbing everybody on Zoom.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
this teacher gets a note about the mitzvah notes. The kids did a mitzvah. It says, "Dear Mora, Dina did not bow down to idols last night." Okay, yeah. So what we're saying over here is not that he could have been. But the idea is like this: do we trust the person that's coming to tell us about someone else's property? So he's only one person showing up. He says, all the money that you have in your bank account. Your father told me that it's really my Sheni money. It's not really yours. It really is tzedakah. It belongs to the shoulder. If he told me that, he was just holding it. So it's just one witness. You don't trust. But he says this money that I have in my possession, that's in this account that I have access to, I'm holding it or whatever. I know that it's really my Sheni money. Now you trust him. It was a different story.
That's
Right. So he's
People saw their father. He was putting money into this Swiss account and this whatever chests and while he's doing this, he says it belongs to so and so. So it says it belongs to Meiser Sheni. If he was saying this like he's telling them the truth, like in a way of a will, then Dvar of Kayamin, then we're going to trust him. Im Kamarim, but if he's just trying to make it look like he doesn't have money, or he doesn't want them to take it. So he's saying, don't think that you could spend this because this belongs to so and so. So then Layam Klum, then we don't we don't say that it's Meiser Sheni automatically. Someone, his father had a lot of money and he doesn't know where it is. And master of the dreams comes to him and says, Kach v'kachim, such and such, it's in such and such a place. And he says also Shal Meiser Sheni, that it doesn't belong to you, it belongs to Meiser Sheni. Zahayam, I said there was such a story. V'amru, and they said, the rabbi said, he could take the money and he doesn't have to believe the dream. Just to keep the money, even though the dream told him where it is.
Yeah. So someone came to Chaim Volozhin and said, I'm going on a trip and I had a dream that I'll be on the wagon and something bad will happen at the wagon at a certain point. And he told him, dreams don't mean anything. Go on your trip. And he went on the trip and they got to that point and the wagon rolled over a wheel and he fell off and died. So his family came back to Chaim Volozhin and said, what did you do? He told you about it. And he said, even if I had known what was going to happen, I would have said the same thing because we don't paskin from dreams.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Okay. That's a real, strong halachist.
So what do you do with all the Kabbalistic stories of the Rebbe that his father or grandfather came to him in a dream, we have all these stories
Right.
and told me this.
They don't.
Yeah. Maybe if it's a tzaddik, maybe it's different. Tzaddik comes to you in a dream, it's different. Here it's just Zahya Maisa.
Here goes the whole Mormon
Be careful with the dreams, because that's how other checkers came
That's
to
how it
this world.
started.
The
Right.
dreams,
Yeah,
the ones-
dream.
Oh, yeah?
Other checkers came to.
Doesn't it say back in Brachas that if your Rebbe or tzaddik comes to you in a dream,
Don't have dreams.
it means something? It means you're gonna, I think it was gonna, you'll be a Talmud Chacham or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Who's he
Trump
to?
comes to you.
It says that there, it says, you remember that from Brachas?
I think so.
At the end of Brachas, there was a lot of things about dreams.
Dreams, yeah.
Okay, we're going back to discuss the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, if two people say that he's innocent and one person says that he's guilty, so they say that he's innocent. If two people say that he's guilty and one person says that they say that he's guilty. But how do they write this in the document? What does the document say when it wasn't a unanimous decision? It was a decision that was made by vote, and just the majority won. Rabbi Yochanan says, they just write, he's innocent, he's vindicated. Rish Lakish Amar, plain mezakin, plain mechayim. Rish Lakish says, wow, see, so and so and so and so says paskin like this, but so and so said that. Now this is a huge problem because we said before you weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, I'll let you look at the commentaries and figure out how this is a special. This is a
thank you.
special case, and this is only when it's in such and such a case or whatever. Okay. Rabbi Lazar, it says Rabbi Lazar. It's Rabbi Lazar Amar midivrayim nizdaka pleni. From their decision, so and so is vindicated, which makes it look like it wasn't unanimous. My benaya, what's the difference between how we write this? Let's say the Bezdin made a mistake. And if the Bezdin makes a serious mistake, they have to pay the defendant what he lost.
But that was only if he wasn't expert.
Okay. It depends. Depends what type of mistake. Now, if they make this serious mistake, then how are they going to divide up how the judges are going to pay? One of them was correct. The minority one was correct. The majority was the one that. So, the Lamanda Mirzake, the one that says that we just write innocent Mishalim, everyone has to pay.
Okay.
He was part of that. Lamanda Pliny Mizakin. If we said clearly that he was not one of the ones that held that, so then he's going to be exempt from paying. The Gemara says, 1 second. Why does he have to pay? He should say, if you would have listened to me, you wouldn't have had to pay either. There's a different difference. The Shlumei Inu Mansa Didei. Did they have to pay his part? There's 3 judges here. Are they paying 2/3 or are they paying the entire thing? So, according to the one that says the verdict was this, then Mishalim, then the other 2 judges have to cover his portion. If we specify that this person held differently, then they don't have to cover his portion. The Gemara says, 1 second. They have to cover his portion if they say that if they just write one word that he's vindicated. Why do we have to pay your portion? If you wouldn't have been here, there would have been no court case. There would have been no, and we wouldn't have been able to even pass like this. Then so you're part of the problem. The difference is what's considered, is this considered gossip? Rabbi Yochanan says you just say the zakai. We don't want to spread gossip. Otherwise, it looks like it's lie. I know you don't want to spread gossip, but you also have to say the truth, and this is a court, and you have to say the truth. Rabbi Lazar, Islay Damar, Islay Damar. Rabbi Lazar holds of both of them. You have to say the truth. You also don't want to spread gossip. Therefore, you're right. From the words, so-and-so has been vindicated. In other words, it's come out from this, but it means not that everyone agreed.
Why don't they handle it in the judges? Like, why do the people have to find out? Like if it was divided 50-50 or 33 each, why don't they keep it in the judge?
If this judge doesn't owe, then this judge isn't gonna pay. Yeah, this litigant is only gonna get 2/3 of the money.
No, they could divide it 50-50. They could do 50-50. They covered the third portion, so they know that was the right thing.
Oh. Let's say one judge doesn't pay.
Don't they have to? They obligated, so.
No, look, this guy's coming to the judge. He says, "You owe me money. You made a mistake." So does the guy pay a quarter? Or does a guy pay half? It's a different opinion. Depends what they wrote in the document.
But they're saying that the reason is the gossip and all this stuff.
I mean, that's the next. Then we rejected that. It doesn't have to do with the money. Yeah, we went through the several stages here. At the end, it doesn't matter what they write in the document. Whatever the halacha is, what they pay, that's what they pay. It's nothing to do with the written document. They write. And then the discussion only has to do with gossip. Yeah. Okay, let's leave it over here.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.